Okay, so I think we are now live. So, hello to anybody that is watching live or after the fact. I'm Paul from Refocus Coaching, and I help dads in business to increase their energy levels, improve their health, and lose excess body fat permanently through nutrition and mindset coaching. Thanks for watching live or on playback. Please give us a thumbs up or ask any questions as we go, and we'll try and get to those as we go through this conversation. And today I'm joined by Charlie Marsden. Please introduce yourself.
Hi everyone. My name's Charlie Marsden. I have a video production business called Proverb Media, but as you can probably see just down there, it also says camera coach. So my way of working, I guess, is a little bit different in that I really love to focus on people and helping them. From previous experience as a professional singer and training towards being a professional speaker, I love to help people feel confident and comfortable on camera. So I take an approach that first means I coach you whilst I do the technical things as well, to make sure that I don't just press record and hope for the best, that I get people feeling really like themselves on camera. So it's a less threatening and much more relaxing process to create great content for your business.
Awesome, thank you. I might need to hire your services. This should be a coaching the other way around. It should be the other way around, really. That's awesome. Thanks for that. So these talks are kind of all about talking to dads who are either running businesses or leading in business, and how they kind of balance energy and health around managing family commitments and managing crazy busy work. Yeah, I guess where we want to start off with really is kind of, are there any particular struggles or areas that you've worked with your health in terms of trying to manage all of that stuff?
Yeah, I mean, I could be the test subject for this. So I had a major surgery 3 months ago. So I've now got a stoma. And it's called an ileostomy for anyone who wants more specific knowledge. So I had my large intestine fully removed because I had Crohn's disease. So I've over the kind of last few years of my business and really developing things, I've had a lot of health challenges that I've really had to learn to navigate in a way that's that means I still give my family what they want from me. My wife, making sure she feels loved and gets attention, because she's a full-time mum, so she can easily get tired out. I've definitely had to juggle my health a lot. Fortunately, now I've had my operation, my health is drastically better, so I've been able to kind of take hold of my fitness, which really helps. But yeah, it's being a business owner, and it was on one side, I don't think I could have worked consistently if I was employed. I think it would have been a struggle for an employer because of my health previously. So in one side, having my own business can be a real challenge, but at the same time, it's the hidden blessing that when I needed a break, I could try and plan it in.
Yeah, no, that is a bit of a blessing, but also a major worry, I imagine, because when you're not working, you're not necessarily bringing in the cash, are you? So
especially when you have an operation and take almost 2 months out, because I ended with a bit of an infection afterwards, so it was a long process to get back to full health. But yeah, I've been really fortunate that I've been able to work things out, and it works really well with work as well.
Yeah. Oh, good. And with Crohn's disease, I mean, is that something? Were you diagnosed with that fairly early, or was that kind of a late thing, and you struggled up to that point?
15 years. I'd struggled with it. So I started having some minor issues, and I got told I had IBS when I was 14 and a half, 15 years old. And then over that next year, I got told it was Crohn's colitis. It varied a little bit, but it was Crohn's disease. It's been a struggle for that long. I was talking to my wife. The biggest difference that I now know that my body is just brilliant, because the idea is you take the large intestine out, which is where the disease was, that you don't really have it anymore or have the issues. And the one thing that my body could not withstand, which I love doing, and I knew that for my work it would really help me, is actually running. I just love the feeling of kind of being free and being able to do that for my body. And I've now been doing park run every week, and I'm even pushing my boys around the park run. And I've not been able to run for more than 2 or 3 months at a time for 15 years. So it's been a lot of different challenges along the way, but really fortunate now that I could just get on with things.
Yeah, that's really nice. So you can actually finally do that thing and it gives you so many other benefits as well, doesn't it? Which is
it made me realize I managed to do a bit of cycling just to keep fit for the operation, which really helped me. Actually, it made a massive difference. But even that, I think I'm doing decent rides on a carbon push bike. I've got the Lycra, so I feel like I'm doing it properly.
Yeah.
And even doing a few rides a week, I think one run outweighed all of the effort of those rides collectively with the amount of effort I had to put in, because I'm nearly 110 kilograms. So when I get running, my body has to work. And I push my 2 and 4 year old around Park Run now, and I worked out the other week it weighs 50 kilos. So I'm, running is a much bigger push on your system, which at first was horrible, but now I'm getting fitter. It's benefiting my job. I'm a videographer. I've got rollerblades and I've got a drone if I need it, but I need to be able to run with a camera when a client demands it, and to be able to do that without having to worry about my health the next day is really, really nice.
Yeah, no, definitely, and that gives you more confidence in delivering on that as well, doesn't it? So it's better
definitely.
all round.
Yeah, definitely. And I don't want to have to say, I've unfortunately haven't had to in the past anyway, but I don't want to have to say no to a client because I might get ill. It's just not something you ever want to take into consideration.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, well, I mean, I'm glad to hear that your recovery's gone well as well, because it's not plain sailing after that kind of procedure, is it?
Yeah, I was very fortunate. I think when my wife got the call after I came out of surgery, the surgeon called her to tell how everything went, and she said that he sounded surprised by how well it went. Not because he was expecting any different, but it went it went by the book and perfectly, because it's the sort of thing where they'll do what they need to do once they kind of see what's going on. So I was very, very fortunate in the way that everything went, because there are a lot of people with stomas who aren't able to, they're not able to get into doing a 5K every week 3 months after an operation. That's a pretty big thing to do for your body. So I'm really thankful that I can.
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, no, that's really good. So something that what I work on a lot with my clients is I like to look at there's 4 sort of distinct pillars that I work on in terms of your overall health. One of which being your nutrition, one of which being moving and using your body, one of which being rest and sleep, and then the other one is getting this thing right. It's kind of your attitude and your mindset towards things. So you've had probably challenges on all 4 of those through this experience.
I think it's safe to say I have.
Yeah. So like nutritionally, obviously, before your procedure and your surgery, you'd have collected information on how your body works nutritionally for a long time, and there were probably major trigger foods and then some. So what's that looking like now? Are you able to do different things nutritionally?
I was very fortunate. So in having Crohn's disease, if I was during a flare up, I had to really watch what I ate. But if I wasn't in an active flare up, which was, I mean, when I was at my worst, maybe a third of the time I wasn't, I could actually eat mostly what I wanted, apart from kind of curries and takeaways that are a bit more spicy. But yeah, if I was ill, then very restricted. But now my biggest issue is hydration. So a lot of my food choices revolve around that, because I don't have the large intestine, which is what typically absorbs most of the water, as well as electrolytes and such. Because I don't have that, I've got to supplement that. So if I have a drink, it's always got some electrolyte dissolvable in it, or B12 supplements and things like that. So there are certain things I've got to do now to focus more on my hydration, and my food intake tends to revolve around that. So it's a little bit more specific. I can still eat a lot of the things I like to eat. I had the fun thing of when I left hospital, the first conversation about my diet going forward is make sure you have lots of salt and lots of sugar added to your diet. If they had known my diet previous to the operation, I don't think they would have said that, but it was interesting. But obviously it's just down to if I have salt and sugar, then I can absorb more fluid with it. So it's getting a fine balance of trying to be healthy, because I'm not allowed anything really high in fiber, which rules out most healthy things, and kind of sweet corn and beans and things I've got to be careful, because they can be a hazard for me. So I'm kind of trying to navigate it at the minute, but I'm finding if I just have a really simple diet and only have a few meals to pick from, so I don't eat a massive range of foods, but then the foods that I can eat, the vegetables I can eat, the fruits I can eat, I just make sure that I have lots more of them to make sure that I'm not lacking. And try and get a nice mixture of things. So my diet, I think, is quite well rounded at the minute. Unfortunately, the vegetable side is it's hard to find things that work well. But we're currently working on trying to find like slow cooker meals and things like that we can maybe do in bulk. So we've got it around the house, and soups with lumpy veg and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think that's the thing, isn't it? A lot of it is going to be about softening or breaking it down before it goes anywhere near you. And I know from I worked with somebody last year with Crohn's, and obviously it's highly individualized. Everybody has slightly different triggers or flare-ups. But vegetables and fruits are often one of the things that causes the biggest problems. So yeah, that can be challenging. Yeah, and obviously, like you said, hydration is incredibly important now because of how you said it, how those things are absorbed. So electrolytes. I mean, to be honest, I'd argue the case that everybody should include some electrolytes unless they're eating mineral water, drinking mineral water. I think they should include some anyway.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, I used to naturally drink a lot anyway, so I'm naturally quite a warm person. I'm a little bit shiny now, I guess, but I'm naturally really warm, so I could easily drink 6 to 8 pints of fluid in a day prior to my surgery, and I'd still be thirsty at the end of it because I go through a lot of fluid, I guess, because of my body temperature, and I'm relatively large, I guess. But then now I'm not allowed to just drink. The hardest thing I've had is that if I'm that feeling when you're really, really thirsty and you just want to drink 3-4 pints of liquid, I can't do that now. I'm not allowed to because it's not good for my system. So I've got to make sure that I use electrolytes instead and use things that mean anything I do drink actually means something for my body. But I think it's really helped because now I'm thinking about hydration. I think back to all the time I was in my office previous to having the surgery, even when I wasn't really having any major health issues at the time, and I'd be sat in my office and I wouldn't be drinking enough until right at the end of the day, and I'd wonder why my thinking just wasn't quite as on point as it is in the evening, because I'd always find I'm better in the evening. I work better. Sometimes I can work harder in the day, but sometimes if I've got a big project I just work into the evening, and in the evening I kind of something clicks and I work really well. And I think it's because most of what I ate and drank was actually in the evening, so that I didn't end up that hungry in the day. But now, because I'm splitting it up evenly throughout the day, I find that as much as my body's still recovering from surgery in small ways, it's making a bigger impact for my office time because I'm far better hydrated for when I'm sat in the office compared to the end of the day.
No, that's fascinating. And your brain function is definitely linked to how well hydrated you are, and not just in a sense of have you got water in your system, but it's that balance of electrolytes and salts that makes the difference as to how they actually pass into the membrane, through the membrane into the brain. So that's a really interesting point, isn't it? So in a way, you're kind of probably a bit of a better machine now in terms of
I mean, I'm
function.
fit. Yeah, definitely. I mean, just on a fitness level, the idea of doing park run and pushing my kids around, it was never desirable before. Whereas now I really enjoy it. But it's for me, my fitness has always been something that I want to incorporate into my working life. So obviously I'm in a fortunate position because I have my own business. I can shape it in the way that I want to. But for me, a non-negotiable, as I consider my fitness part of my work day. So I won't just kind of think, I'll try and get a run in after work, and because for me after work is family time, so I don't want to interrupt that. So it'll be in the evening, and in winter that's really hard. So I decided that whether it's an extended lunch break or I have a late start one day or an early finish, I would dedicate time in my business in the same way I would to my marketing or my accounting, whatever it is. I'd have that same sort of I'd put that same sort of weight of importance on my fitness as well, to make sure that I can't skip out even when I'm busy with work. It has to come first at some stage to make sure that I'm fit enough to do the job and well enough to do it as well.
No, that's really good to hear, because that's the thing that we tend to neglect, isn't it? Is that we sort of, when we're busy, then we'll just put it off, and actually it's to our detriment in the end. Is we don't sleep as well. We can't get stress out of our body. So having that built in is quite protective and really proactive.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's made a big, since I made that kind of flip of putting it as something as part of my work day, it's made a massive change to my, I guess, my ability to be consistent with my fitness. I wanted to get fit for my operation, and if I didn't take that sort of mindset to it, I simply wouldn't have managed it. And being fitter, I was in a room of people recovering that a lot of us had similar things, and I was the only one who was, as soon as my legs weren't numb anymore, I was doing 2,000 steps a day in the hospital. And I would have done more if it wasn't for trying to be careful. And I was the only person who was able to do that. And there were some people who were similar to my kind of age and fitness level, I guess. But it makes a big difference, especially for when things like operations or unexpected things happen. It's nice to know that your body can bounce back a bit stronger.
Yeah. This is a huge lesson, I think, for everybody, because we tend to react, don't we, otherwise? So we just sort of take things for granted, and then suddenly something happens. It might be illness, might be something else going on, emotional, and then we're only as resilient as the body and mind we've built to that point, aren't we? So I think definitely. there's a real argument for being proactive, just in case, so you're ready. So like you said, you've got that sort of bounce back ability almost that you know, so well done to you for preparing for it as well, because a lot of people would have sort of put it off, and then the week before the surgery, like, oh shit, I was supposed to move a bit more. That's awesome, and it's really good. It sounds like then, so you're kind of physically in terms of recovery, you're able to go and do your runs and things, which is fantastic. So
I've had a couple of moments where I've there was one weekend where I had a tough job, and 1 week I had a job that was very physical, and it left me not able to keep up with my hydration. So I had to choose to not run to make sure that I was, safe. And if I get dehydrated, it could be within a day, I can be to the point of needing to go to hospital, which was news to me after I did a bit more research. So I've got to be really careful. But it's been really nice to have the freedom to. I've got a trampoline in the garden. Last year, I didn't bounce on it once because it hurt. Ultimately, I'd bounce for 15 seconds and I'd be on the sofa for 20 minutes afterwards. But now, I'm still recovering a little bit, so I can't go crazy on it yet, but I can just bounce around and just enjoy. My wife's a full-time mum, so when the kids are out in the garden and I've got my window open because I'm roasting in my office, all I can hear is them laughing. So just being able to say, I'm going to take 10 minutes, jump on the trampoline with the kids, just have a really good time, make some core memories for them, and for me. Having the freedom to do that without having to worry about whether my body's strong enough to do it or whether I'm going to sprain something, or it's made a massive difference to just being able to show up for my wife and kids in the way that I really want to. I've never been a hands-off dad. Like I want to be part of everything. I know everything about the routines, and I want to build more in how they see their fitness. My boys are both in good shape, but I want to make sure that they grow up knowing that movement should be part of your everyday. And it's not something that you go and do once a week at a specific time, but we just do it. We'll do park run, but then afterwards I'll let them loose and they just run whichever way they want to go, and I'll follow them for an hour, and we'll just have a good time walking back to the car very slowly. But they'll run, I'll walk. Having the freedom to just keep up with my family and not have to worry about also keeping up with the business was a real game changer for me, because before it was work hard for the business and then unfortunately be quite worn out on the weekends. So it's nice to not have to fight that balance.
Do you think that perspective's changed because of the surgery and what you've gone through? Is that what tipped the balance, or was there were you thinking that way beforehand anyway?
I was thinking that way before, but my body wasn't able to keep up. So I had Crohn's disease, but because it's an inflammatory condition, if you have one inflammatory condition, I think it's something like you're 70% more likely to have another. So I've had difficulties with polyarthralgia, which is joint pain but without the inflammation like arthritis. It means you can't really do much about it. So I've got joint pains. I've had asthma issues because of medications. I had chronic fatigue for probably 2 years straight. So I had so many different things that one day it was one thing stopping me, another day it was another thing stopping me, and for the most part I just keep going and push through things. But that has to draw back somewhere, and unfortunately it meant, because I've got to get money in to pay the bills, it meant that a lot of my recovery time had to be over the weekend, because that's when my brain just naturally crashed.
Well, thankfully, sounds like a much better place now, at least because of that
Oh,
that physical change, which is fantastic, isn't it?
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I feel. I mean,
So
I'm technically disabled now, which I almost find
yeah,
a bit laughable because I'm the fittest and most capable I think I've
yeah,
ever
you
been.
feel more able
Yeah,
than ever.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Well, hopefully there's some perks that come with that.
yeah. Who knows? Who knows? Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
actually, yes. Alton Towers. Apparently, I can get fast track. So there,
Okay.
there we go.
Awesome. There we go. It's all been worth it.
Yeah. Silver lining.
Cool. And so I kind of what I've been asking people is kind of what you would tell your younger self
Mm,
before sort of either before business starting or before family starting. Um,
mm.
you're in a bit of a different situation, aren't you? Because you've also had this
Yeah.
um, illness as well to cope with. So
Yeah.
I don't know if the question is that relevant, but I guess is there anything you would kind of look back on and reflect on and maybe do a little bit differently?
Um, I think for me, it's but burnout. There's a lot of people who talk about burnout, and it's talked about in many different ways, and it's a really important conversation to have. I think for me, obviously my health had a massive impact, and often kind of sideswiped me because I wouldn't know it was happening until the last minute. But um, burnout is often talked about in a way where you're like it's just, oh, keep working and working and working, and then when you're really tired and can't do anymore, you're burnt out. um but I think splitting burnout
Mm,
into more specific imagery, so you're talking actually you can be mentally burnt out but have all the energy in the world, or you could be emotionally burnt out but have all the mental well-being that you think you should have. And learning how to be tired, learning what tiredness and overwhelm and burnout feels like in different areas, because I think I just looked at it as very much a physical thing because I had physical health challenges. um, Knowing that burnout can look very different, but if you're
yeah.
emotionally burnt out, you might even need a bigger break than if you're physically burnt out, because it could be much harder for you to recover from. And for me, I'm really fortunate. Me and my wife we've got a relationship where we talk about everything. So if we have a problem, we kind of almost don't let each other be silent about it. We have to, it doesn't mean the other one needs to fix it or anything, but we need to vocalize to make sure they're aware of what's going on, so that if they can make a change to help, if I can make a change to help my wife, then I will. If that means giving her a little bit of time just to have a nap, even,
Yeah.
just to recover from having the kids all day, whatever it might be. But yeah,
Yeah.
just understanding that like emotional um overwhelm, it looks completely different to physical overwhelm, so it's very easy to miss. And I think as I was growing, as I was kind of getting a bit older and developing a business, and sometimes I'd find that I'm so stressed that I'd actually be emotionally worn out and I just feel a bit numb, and I wouldn't know
Yeah.
why. But if I didn't know what that really meant, it could damage my relationship with my wife, or I could,
Yeah. Yeah.
not be the father I need to be for my kids, or for meeting a client, I just might not seem like me. Which, especially if I'm coaching someone for camera confidence, I need to make sure that I've got the energy and the emotion
Mm,
to deal with that and to help that person through whatever they need to go through. So yeah, just shaping that a bit differently, so that it's not just kind of you're either worn out or you're not. It's actually, there's a few different ways you can be worn out, and you
yeah.
know maybe look at things a bit differently. I think would have made a big difference for me, because I simply looked at physical burnout as the only option because I had a physical health challenge.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's a really good lesson, I think, and often we don't figure it out until till we've been burnt out in some way.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
There's only so much capacity we've got, I think, for stress, and ultimately it's a stress function in your body,
Mm,
and that
yeah,
stress can come emotionally, mentally, physically, physiologically, and it all manifests in the same kind of way hormonally for your body.
yeah, yeah.
And so you get to a tipping point, and then the tiniest thing could be the thing that spills you over,
Yeah, yeah,
and so yeah, it's a real journey, isn't it, figuring that out
yeah,
and
yeah.
finding that out for yourself.
Yeah, you've
um
got to know it, and for me, obviously, it's if you're in the position to do so, or even if it's a close mate or something, instead having someone else who knows you, even if it's just a good
yeah,
friend that you meet with regularly, just have like a one-off chat with them and just say, hey, if I ever seem a bit different, can you just let me know? Because it doesn't matter who you are or how self-aware you are. There are always going to be things that you could change in that you won't recognize. You might recognize them, but much further down the line. But if I'm slightly off and I don't know it, my wife will tell me in a heartbeat, like, are you okay? Because you just don't seem 100%. And then I can figure it
Yeah.
out. And at that point, I
Yeah.
can know if I need to make a change.
Yeah. And often that's the only question needed. Are you okay?
Yeah.
Because then it's sort of, even if you just say, yeah, in the moment, you'll go away and reflect maybe.
Yeah.
And then you
Yeah,
might think,
potentially.
actually, well, probably not actually. So I'll go and have a chat now.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
Asking,
so I
asking
think
twice. Yeah.
yes, well, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Actually, it does work.
Yeah. Yeah.
And this is something that I kind of, when I work with clients, I look at that in terms of the mindset. I sort of, I like to suggest that we actually communicate with our most important people,
Definitely.
because you're accountable to them, aren't you, in many
Yeah.
ways. So and it's really genuinely the closest people to you. So it is going to be
Mm.
your wife, your partner, your business partner, your best friend, your mum, your dad, people like that, your kids.
Mm.
And I think there's actually a lot of power in sharing with them. So even if it's a goal or something that you're trying to achieve, if
Mm.
you share that with somebody that actually matters to you and cares about you, then you're going to do more to go towards that goal anyway. You're going to do more
Mm.
for it because you care more almost about them than perhaps you do about yourself.
Yeah. I mean, it's the same. Like the reason I have my business is for my wife and kids.
So yeah, I think
It doesn't matter that I love having a drone or I love messing with cameras.
yeah,
The point of me doing this is for them. So if I can't be everything I need for them, which matters with all of those things, then why am I doing it? Why am I doing it in the first place?
yeah, yeah. No, absolutely, yeah. Cool. So you touched on one of your sort of non-negotiables earlier. Have you got any kind of specific non-negotiables that you have on a daily basis that sort of help you take care of that mindset and that energy?
My first non-negotiable, and this was a conversation before I started my business, me and my wife sat down and had this chat, is family time is non-negotiable. So from
Yeah.
5, I finish at 5 p.m. If I'm out filming, it's different, of course, because I'm out and doing the job, but I'm not filming every day because I edit my stuff, as I edit all my work, and there's lots of different things I can do as well from home. So family time for me starts at 5 o'clock, and then the boys go down around 6:30. And within that bracket, I've got to be present and available for the boys. So I put my work down, I go downstairs, and I'm not allowed to. I don't keep work unless I've got something really urgent and I just need to for a quick moment. I don't just sit down and get my phone out and carry on working or anything. It is go down, have family time with my wife and kids. Whatever they're doing, I'll join in and we'll carry on from there. And that was something that I might every now and then, if I've got maybe a one-off event or networking event that I think would be really, really worth going to, then I might interrupt. I might swap it out for that, but I normally find time elsewhere in the day to make up for it.
Yeah.
But yeah, like that for me, family time, if I can't have that, then for me, that's where I'll feel more worn out, because when I'm with my wife and kids, that's when I feel refreshed. That's when I feel relaxed. That's when I can just enjoy their company and just be me. And I can
Yeah.
in business, of course, as well. But throughout the day, it's very easy to feel like I'm being really social, because there are lots of great people that I get to talk to at networking events, and of course things like this. People like yourself. It's talking with great people, but it's not the same as spending time with your family. And sometimes it's really easy to have a busy week where I'm networking loads to try and build some new connections, and I feel like I'm almost kind of socialed out. But that family time, even if I'm tired, I'm still refreshed at the end of it, because that's what I need, because I love my wife and kids and I want to spend lots of time with them.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And if you think about what a day entails, that's a very small piece of time, really, isn't it? And so
Yeah,
you
massively.
kind of have to give that bit of time to you and to them.
Yeah, massively. It's just one of those things. And then for I guess the other flip side of that, with I guess it's the kind of bigger picture of family stuff, is kind of, I guess it probably wouldn't call it quite a non-negotiable, but for me, with running my business, of course, I want to make it a really nice, busy business. I want it to provide everything that my wife and kids, hopefully not just what they need, but what they want as well. But in part of that, once I've earned enough to pay for everything we need and to give us obviously whatever we want on top of that, whether it's savings and different things, once I've got us to a stage where it's like, okay, everything's taken care of, after that point, work has to be considered a choice and not just, oh, yeah, something's coming, I'll take it. Something's coming, I'll take it. And just keep getting busier and busier. After that point, it's like, okay, well, if we've got the money for a holiday, I can't keep saying yes to work because we won't have time for the holiday, because I don't have half terms and things where I stop working. So I've got to structure that and make it fit us. So it's at that point, it's also making sure that I communicate with my family to make sure it's not just me head down trying to earn as much money as I can. Because if it's all about money, then it's not really for them, is it? Because there's got to be a point in which I have to say, actually, I'm a bit too busy. This project can be pushed a bit further down the line, or I can pass it to someone else if I'm not able to do it. And I've got to be real about that to make sure that the business I started for my family actually serves them.
Yeah. No, yeah, I got to commend that. Yeah, absolutely. They have to come first. And that, like you said, that's the whole point of what you're doing, really, isn't it? You're not just doing it for you. It's, you're doing it for those now.
Yeah, definitely.
And have you got any kind of non-negotiables in terms of your kind of health? Is there a food that you always have, or a system that you always sort of use in some way?
Still figuring it out, I guess, now, because I've had so many changes, because it's taken a couple of months for my system to just kind of settle and heal and everything. So I've only really had a month or so, I guess, of really figuring out what I need to eat and how much I need to drink and stuff. But I mean, for me, the big thing now is that I've got to ideally not eat big meals. I've got to eat little and often. So it's trying to find a nice way of structuring that where it doesn't just feel like I'm snacking all day. Because if I get into a snack mode, I will eat a lot. I'll eat twice as much food in a day if I'm not careful. So I'm still very much figuring that out, I guess. I don't think I've got anything non-negotiable yet. In that, I guess it's just been my fitness has been the big thing, and the rest of it I'm still trying to figure out.
Yeah, I think it's just really, you want to just be intentional, isn't it? And do things with a bit of purpose. So positive, and no one's perfect. We can't be super duper on it all the time, but it's just, for me, it's about just leaning more towards optimal than suboptimal for the majority of the time. And then you're going to be doing all right. So, I think it's that having that intention is really positive.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So we've sailed past the 30-minute mark. Is there anything you wanted to kind of, bring up specifically, or ask me, or, anything that we've spoken about today that you kind of want to dig a bit more into?
I don't think anything immediately comes to mind. I guess it's with, like, do you have a balance that you would tell people to? So in terms of the amount of effort that you put into, potentially trying to eat healthy, eat more healthy, or get fitter, like, is there a balance that you tend to kind of push people towards? I don't know if that's too broad a question, but kind of, would you tell people to start firstly with food, or start firstly with diet, or first focus on just making sure you get more sleep, because that's very important as well? Like, kind of, how do you weight things, I guess, as you're starting to try and improve?
So it's very individual, depending on where they are with those, those sorts of pillars that are underneath them. So when I start to work with someone, I'll look at those certain areas, and we'll sort of score them as to where they think they are on a few things, and that then indicates to me, right, okay, maybe we need to look at sleep and diet first. As a general rule, I think that of all of those pillars, if I was pressed to pick one as the most important, I think it would be the nutrition side of things. Simply because what you consume, what you eat, is going to fuel all of your other outputs. So, the way you hydrate and drink, and the way you fuel in terms of your sugar load is going to get this thing working optimally or not. And then you're going to be looking at, your general body's metabolism and your strength, your flexibility, mobility. So for me, I kind of like to look at the body as a bit of a machine and say, well, actually, are we fueling that machine to be strong and efficient and fast and all these sorts of things? So I think, yeah, for me, I think they're all really important. And I think, sleep's super important, but they're all linked. So if you're not eating optimally most of the time, it could impact on your sleep. And your sleep, if it's poor, could impact on your appetite and the hormones that regulate how you eat. So they're definitely linked. Your hydration's linked to those things as well, and then how well rested you are. And again, if you exercise, and you probably noticed it yourself now that you've been able to get back into running, is that when you exercise, obviously your temperature rises, all your muscles are being used. You're then going to get hungry because your body's going to want to refuel that and refeed that. But you feel completely different. It sort of lifts your whole game, So they're all definitely linked, and they're all important. So, if possible, try and do a little bit of work on all of those areas. But I think as a base level starting point, I would say looking at how you're fueling yourself and how you're feeding yourself is probably a good place to start. And my basic advice is to go old school, go back to, eating lean proteins, get your fruits and veggies in where you can, obviously, if you can, and just go for lots of variety and try not to just go down one kind of avenue and just stick with that. Our body is a complex thing, and we need nutrients and vitamins and minerals from all different areas. So I think try and be varied, experiment with things, find things that work for you, and pay attention to your body. If something's triggering you in some way, then maybe sometimes writing a food diary is quite useful, because for a lot of people it stops them eating so much food, but also you've got a record of like, oh, I had a really bad tummy that day after I'd eaten this thing, and maybe you start to see a pattern and you can actually do something about it. So so sometimes it's quite a good idea to just keep a little note of things like that, especially if you are experiencing any sort of discomfort or difficulties. And that's the first thing a dietitian or doctor will tell you is do a food diary, and then they start looking at it.
So I've been thinking of doing that, because at the minute, because I'm not just eating what I normally eat, sometimes I think my appetite's been for some reason drastically changing at the minute as well, and there's some days I just don't feel hungry, but I can't really do that for my system now. I've got to have something constantly going through it for it to be in a happy position, I guess. So I think because I'm eating so often, sometimes if I have a hungry phase, I eat too much, but then because I'm eating so often, sometimes my appetite just drops off the map completely. So I think a food diary, I guess, would be an easy way to make sure that I guess if I see it empty, I know I need to do something about it.
Yeah, and it's tricky because when you're eating foods, your stomach's obviously trying to digest those foods, and typically foods that are harder to eat, i.e. you need to chew them a bit more, are going to be slower through your stomach and digestive system, and slower for your body to take those nutrients out. So what you'll tend to find is, and this will be the same for most people, is if you eat something that is either fibrous or a good quality lean protein, then that's going to slow down the whole digestive system. It's also going to help you to deliver energy in a smoother pattern, rather than having sort of sugar rushes and sugar spikes. So if you were to make notes of some of the things you eat through the day, you might find that those days where you don't feel like eating, you may have had a bit more protein that day, and so that's potentially why that's happening, because it's it's harder for your stomach to break that down and start to move it through, and then it's when protein has been absorbed into the small intestine, it sort of blocks the other nutrients a little bit and slows things down, which is why you get a nice energy from it. So you might find, even if you just make a note on your diary of not weighing foods or anything like that, but just the things you've eaten and roughly when, you might look back on a day and go, well, actually, that's probably why, because I had this protein, that protein, and this, and it just slows the whole thing down. I guess coming through your surgery, did they offer you a dietitian or anything?
No, not a dietitian, but I actually came out with quite a lot of different information packs and such, but I'm fortunate there's a separate nurse team just for stoma stuff. So if I've ever got any questions, I can go directly to them, and they can either send me to the right person or give me the help that I need. So unfortunately, I've got a really nice direct contact for that. But there's the good thing with stomas, I guess, there are so many people that have them now that there's a lot of research and there's a lot of help available. Just even online, social media. There's lots of different people who give really great insight into how they've dealt with different issues or how they've adapted. So there's a lot that I can just access on my phone in seconds if I need to, which is really helpful.
Yeah, that's really good. And it will be highly individualized again, as it all is. And I think there'll be a little bit of experimentation with you, but maybe have a look at that balance of proteins versus your carbs and your fats in a meal, in a sitting, because that might be the thing that sort of tips the balance a little bit.
Okay. Yeah.
So so for example, you might not want to go with like big protein meals, because that's going to slow you down, and then you'll lose your appetite for the rest of the day. And then if you're not eating regularly, that's when you start to get problems. So,
okay, I didn't know that. I knew protein made a bit of a difference. I didn't realize it was that big. So
it could be quite significant potentially.
Yeah.
So
the one thing I got told was, if I'm ever not feeling great or need to hydrate, eat lots of really starchy foods, because they can help kind of slow things down, and it's beneficial in other ways for me. But I got so sick of eating anything starchy, because it was the last thing I wanted, because I couldn't have all the veg I wanted as well. Just felt quite lethargic from it. So I think I probably went the other way, and then had a load of chicken and rice and things instead, and tried to freshen up the food. But that might have been what happened.
Yeah, maybe. And the thing is, when you eat carbohydrates, that's what your muscles utilize that as fuel for movement. So, but when your body's broken that down and storing those nutrients in your muscles, there's also water combined with it. So actually, you might find if you have a really starchy day, let's say you've eaten loads of bread or pasta or something, but also you're trying to hydrate well, you'll just feel bigger. And you'll be slightly heavier, So it's just remembering that that's normal, that just happens. It's all fine. Once you go for a run, it'll all go, and then you'll replace it, and it'll all come back. It's just the cycle your body's going to go through. So I think it's an interesting one, isn't it? And people freak out when they get on the scales after they maybe have a pizza the night before. They get on the scales the next day and they weigh a kilo heavier. But it's not fat. It can't be. It's impossible for that to happen. It's just the water that's been retained with those carbs. So I think it's just remembering that not to freak out.
I'm not bothered by numbers on a scale, as long as I know I'm healthy. I don't really care what the number is. But
yeah, and that's the real thing. That's the real goal we should be going for. Yeah, let's feed our body well. Let's fuel our body to do the things that it can do, and just feel good in our skin. That's what we really should be going for.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
well,
great.
Awesome. We've gone sailing through loads of time. It's been a really great chat and really thought provoking, and hopefully it sort of helped anyone that's watching or watches this back later. I've not seen any questions or comments or anything come through. If anyone's watching back later and they want to get in touch with you or find out more about you, how can they get in touch with you?
You can obviously find me on LinkedIn and send me a message if you want. I'm always happy to connect and widen my network. But as you just very, very efficiently put there, my website, provermedia.com. Either head to the website. I've got a live chat on there that goes directly to me, so I can converse with people. But otherwise, LinkedIn is always a great place to hang out and have a chat.
Yeah, brilliant. That's great. Thank you very much, Charlie. Really enjoyed it.
Cool. Great. No, thank you very much. Really enjoyed the chat, and thanks for the advice as well.
Yeah, great. Thanks a lot.
Cool. Right. Take care.